The air in the St. Jude's Metropolitan Trauma Bay is a cocktail of competing desperations. It smells of antiseptic, iron-rich blood, and the faint, acrid tang of burnt coffee from a pot that has been on for 12 hours too long. Fluorescent lights hum with a nervous energy, casting long, dancing shadows that make the living look like ghosts, and the ghosts look all too real. In this cathedral of controlled chaos, Nurse Anya Petrova moves like a phantom, a whisper of motion in a world of shouts and frantic beeps. She is a creature of the periphery. Her shoulders are permanently hunched, as if bracing for a blow that never comes, or perhaps one that came long ago and never left. Her mousy brown hair is always pulled forward, a curtain attempting to conceal the faint, silvery scar that arcs over her left eyebrow and vanishes into her hairline. She is meticulous, precise, but her movements are shrouded in a hesitation that her colleagues mistake for incompetence. They see her double-checking a dosage or pausing to read a chart one more time, and they see weakness. They see a woman who doesn't belong. Dr. Harrison Thorne, chief of trauma surgery, certainly sees it. He is the sun around which this small, frantic universe orbits. He is brilliant, a savant with a scalpel, a man who can pluck life from the jaws of death with an arrogance that suggests he believes he carved those jaws himself. He strides through the ER in bespoke shoes that never seem to get a drop of blood on them, his tailored lab coat a mantle of pure, unadulterated ego. His voice is his primary instrument of power, second only to his skill. It is a booming baritone that can cut through the din of a dozen simultaneous crises, a tool he uses to command, to control, and most often, to belittle. And his favorite target is Anya. The latest incident is both brutally public and crushingly routine. A multi-car pileup has flooded the bays with broken bodies. Thorne is working on a patient with a crushed chest, his hands moving with the fluid, terrifying grace of a master at his craft. "Suture!" he barks, not looking up. Anya is his scrub nurse for the procedure, a role she dreads more than any other. Her hands, usually so steady when she is alone, seem to tremble in his orbit. She passes him the suture. He snatches it from her without breaking his rhythm. He works for a moment, his brow furrowed in concentration. Then he stops. The entire bay seems to hold its breath. "What is this?" he says, his voice dangerously low. He holds up the needle. "This is a 4-0 silk. I need a 2-0 proline. Are you blind or just stupid?" "I'm sorry, doctor," Anya whispers, her face flushing a deep, painful crimson. "I thought you said—" "You thought?" Thorne scoffs, finally looking at her. His eyes are chips of ice. "That's your problem, Nurse Petrova. You think. You are not paid to think. You are paid to listen and to do. Is that concept too complex for your mind to grasp?" He flings the suture pack onto the instrument tray with a clatter that makes her flinch. "Now get me the correct suture before this patient bleeds out because of your dithering." The other nurses and doctors nearby avert their eyes. Dr. Jennings, Thorne's resident sycophant, lets out a small, appreciative chuckle. Chloe, a junior nurse who has always been kind to Anya, looks at the floor, her expression pained. No one says a word. No one ever does. This is Thorne's kingdom. Anya fumbles for the correct suture, her hands now shaking visibly. She feels the weight of 20 pairs of eyes on her, the heat of her own shame. She is the unit's joke, nurse nuisance, the slow, fragile mouse that the lion likes to toy with. She finds the 2-0 proline and passes it to him, her gaze fixed on the sterile field, refusing to meet his. He takes it without a word, and the surgery continues. But the humiliation lingers in the air, thick and suffocating, long after the patient is stabilized and moved to the ICU. Anya retreats to the stockroom, ostensibly to check inventory, but really just to breathe. She leans her head against the cool metal of a shelf, closes her eyes, and wills the burning in her throat to go away. She just wants a quiet life. That's all she has ever wanted. The rest of the shift passes in a blur of mundane tasks. She changes dressings, stocks carts, and answers call lights, keeping her head down. She is an expert at making herself small, at fading into the institutional beige of the hospital walls. It is a survival skill she honed in places far more dangerous than this, but here, it only invites contempt. She is counting the minutes until she can clock out, go home to her small, quiet apartment, and forget the sound of Dr. Thorne's voice. But the universe has other plans. The wail of an approaching ambulance cuts through the relative calm of the late evening. It's a familiar sound, but this one feels different, more urgent. The paramedics burst through the automatic doors with a gurney, their faces grim. "We've got a John Doe," one of them shouts, "found unresponsive in an alley downtown. No ID, no witnesses." On the gurney lies a man in his early 30s. He is built like a machine, with broad shoulders and a corded neck, but he is covered in the grime of the street. His clothes are torn and dirty. A dark, ugly bruise is blooming over his temple. He is utterly still. Thorne, who had been preparing to leave, turns with an air of profound irritation. He glances at the man on the gurney, and a dismissive sneer curls his lip. "Great. Another junkie clogging up my ER. What are the vitals?" "That's the weird part," the paramedic says, handing over a tablet. "Heart rate is 45. BP is 90/50. Respiration is shallow, 8 breaths per minute. But his pupils are pinpoint, and his core temperature is fluctuating wildly. We push 2 milligrams of Narcan en route. No response." Thorne barely glances at the chart. No response to Narcan doesn't mean it's not an overdose. They're mixing fentanyl with xylazine now. Makes them resistant. Typical. "Wheel him into Trauma 3. He turns to the charge nurse. "Get a line in him, start a standard detox protocol, and page social work. Once he's stable, we'll ship him to a city shelter. I want him out of my bay in 2 hours." He begins to walk away, already mentally checked out. But Anya, who had been quietly observing from the doorway, steps forward. Something is wrong. Deeply wrong. The symptoms don't line up. Pinpoint pupils, bradycardia, respiratory depression. It looks like an opioid overdose. But the fluctuating temperature and the lack of response to a significant dose of naloxone, that's the red flag. A massive, screaming red flag that only someone with her specific, buried history would recognize. "Dr. Thorne," she says, her voice barely a whisper. He stops and turns, an expression of pure annoyance on his face. "What is it, Petrova? I'm leaving." "His reflexes, doctor," she says, forcing herself to speak louder. "And the muscle fasciculations. They're atypical for an opioid or xylazine overdose. It looks more like organophosphate exposure." The words hang in the air. For a moment, there is silence. Thorne stares at her as if she has just started speaking in tongues. Then he lets out a short, barking laugh. "Organophosphate? You mean like pesticide poisoning? Did you see him rolling around in a field before he came in?" Dr. Jennings snickers behind him. "Maybe he's a farmer, sir." "I doubt it," Thorne says, his eyes glinting with malice as he turns his full attention back to Anya. "Nurse Petrova seems to have graduated from WebMD to advanced toxicology. Tell me, are you a doctor now? Did you get your medical degree online between stocking supply closets?" Anya flinches, but she holds her ground. She has seen this before. Not in a textbook. She has seen it in the dust and chaos of a sun-scorched village in a forgotten corner of the world. She has smelled it on the air. It's a nerve agent. A military-grade compound designed for one purpose: to kill. The standard detox protocol Thorne ordered won't just fail, it will be fatal. "Sir, with respect," she presses, her heart hammering against her ribs. "If it is an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, giving him standard treatments could cause a paradoxical reaction. It could send him into a cholinergic crisis we can't reverse. We should run a full panel, at least check his cholinesterase levels before we proceed." Thorne's face darkens. The condescending amusement is gone, replaced by cold fury. He takes a step toward her, his larger frame towering over her. "Let me be perfectly clear, nurse. You do not practice medicine in my hospital. You do not question my diagnosis, and you certainly do not give me orders." He points a finger at her, his voice dropping to a menacing growl. "You will take this patient to Trauma 3. You will start a naloxone drip as I ordered. You will begin his discharge paperwork. And you will keep your ridiculous, half-baked theories to yourself. Do you understand me?" This is the line. The precipice. She can feel it. She can back down, as she always does. She can nod, whisper, "Yes, doctor," and walk away. She can follow his orders and watch the man on the gurney die. It would be easy. it would be safe. Her shift would end, and she could go home. But as she looks at the John Doe, at the strong, still form under the thin hospital blanket, she sees other faces. The faces of men she couldn't save. The faces that visit her in the dead of night. The scar above her eye begins to throb, a phantom pain from a life she tried to bury. "No," she says. The word is quiet, but it lands in the tense room with the force of a grenade. Thorne freezes. "What did you just say to me?" "I said no, doctor," Anya repeats, and this time her voice is steady. She lifts her chin, and for the first time all day, she looks him directly in the eye. "I will not follow an order that I know will kill a patient." A collective gasp ripples through the onlookers. This is not just insubordination, it is heresy. It is a direct challenge to the God King of the ER. Thorne's face contorts into a mask of pure rage. "You are finished," he hisses. "You are not just fired, Petrova. I will personally see to it that your nursing license is revoked. You will never work in a hospital again. Security!" he bellows. "Get this woman out of my hospital." Two burly security guards start moving toward her. Anya knows she has only seconds. Thorne turns his back on her, dismissing her completely, and barks at another nurse. "You! Get in there and start that drip, now!" Anya acts. In a blur of motion, she pushes past a stunned Dr. Jennings, grabs the gurney, and shoves it hard into the empty Trauma 3 bay. She spins, hits the electronic lock button on the wall panel, and slams the heavy door shut just as the security guards arrive. The lock clicks into place with a definitive thud. She is locked in a room with a dying man and a ticking clock. Outside, all hell breaks loose. Thorne is screaming, pounding on the door with his fists. "Open this door, Petrova! Open this door right now!" Anya ignores him. Her mind is clear now. The fear, the hesitation, it's all gone, burned away by the cold fire of purpose. The mousy, timid nurse is gone. The woman who stands here now is someone else entirely. She is a creature of action, of crisis. This is her element. "Okay," she says to the unconscious man, her voice calm and clipped. "Let's get you stable." She rips open his shirt. Her fingers fly across his chest, searching for the telltale signs she knows will be there. She finds them. Fine, almost invisible tremors under the skin. Fasciculations. A classic sign. Her diagnosis is confirmed. She needs atropine. A lot of it. The standard crash cart only has a few milligrams. Not nearly enough. She needs to dry up the flood of secretions filling his lungs. She scans the room. Her eyes land on the cardiac cart in the corner, stocked for advanced life support. She sprints to it, yanks open a drawer, and finds what she's looking for. A box of pre-filled atropine syringes. She grabs an IV line, pops the cap off a syringe, and pushes the entire dose into the port. 1 milligram, then another, and another. Outside, the pounding on the door intensifies. She can hear Thorne shouting for a key, for maintenance, for a battering ram. She ignores it all. Come on, she mutters, watching the cardiac monitor. The man's heart rate is dangerously low, dipping into the 30s. The screen flashes red. Bradycardia. She pushes another dose of atropine. 4 milligrams. 5. 6. A dose that would kill a healthy person. But this man isn't healthy. He is drowning from the inside out. His own nervous system is attacking him. Slowly, painstakingly, the number on the monitor begins to climb. 38. 42. 50. 55. The flashing red light stops. His breathing, while still shallow, becomes less ragged. She has bought him time. But it's not a cure. The atropine only manages the symptoms. It doesn't fix the underlying cause. The poison is still destroying the enzyme that regulates his nerve signals. For that, she needs an oxime. Specifically, pralidoxime, and not the standard kind. For what she suspects this is, she needs a military-grade compound, something that is absolutely not in a civilian hospital's formulary. There is a loud crack as the door lock begins to splinter. They are breaking through. Anya works faster. She needs to protect his airway. She grabs a laryngoscope and an endotracheal tube. It has been years since she has intubated anyone. Years since she performed the procedure under fire, with dust and blood in her eyes. But her hands don't shake. Muscle memory is a powerful thing. She tilts his head back, inserts the blade, visualizes the vocal cords. A perfect view. She slides the tube in, inflates the cuff, and connects an ambu bag. She gives a few breaths, watching his chest rise and fall. Good placement. He is secure. The door bursts open with a splintering crash. Thorn storms in, his face purple with rage, flanked by the two security guards. He sees the scene. Anya standing over the patient, an ambu bag in her hand, the empty atropine syringes littering the counter. "What have you done?" he snarls, his voice shaking with fury. He lunges forward and shoves her hard. "You insane woman! You could have killed him!" Anya stumbles back, catching herself on the counter. The shove barely registers. "I saved him," she says, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. "You were going to murder him with your ego." "That's it," Thorn seethes. He points a trembling finger at the door. "Security, get her out. Now. And make sure she is escorted off the property. If I ever see her face here again, I will have her arrested for trespassing." The guards grab Anya's arms. She doesn't resist. Her work here is done. For now. She has stabilized him. She has bought him a few precious hours. As they drag her from the room, she locks eyes with Thorn one last time. There is no fear in her gaze, only a cold, hard certainty. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," she says, not as a threat, but as a simple statement of fact. The guards haul her through the ER, a gauntlet of shocked and curious stares. They don't stop at the locker room. They drag her straight to the exit and push her out into the cold night air. The glass doors slide shut behind her, sealing her away from the world she had tried so hard to be a part of. She is fired, disgraced, alone. The cool air hits her face. It begins to rain, a light, miserable drizzle that soaks through her thin scrubs in seconds. She stands there on the pavement, trembling slightly, the adrenaline beginning to fade, leaving behind a hollow ache. She failed. She saved him for a moment, but Thorn will reverse her actions. The man will die, and she will be blamed. A familiar feeling of despair washes over her. This is why she tried to stay hidden. This is why she tried to be small. The moment she steps up, the world conspires to crush her. She pulls her flimsy jacket tighter and begins the long, lonely walk toward the bus stop. Then she hears it. It's not the sound of city traffic or the distant wail of another siren. It's a sound from her past, a sound that is seared into her memory. A deep, rhythmic whoomp, whoomp, whoomp that grows louder with every passing second. It's the sound of heavy turbine blades beating the air into submission. She looks up. Plunging through the low, rain-filled clouds are two shapes, monstrous and black against the bruised purple sky. They are not news helicopters or police choppers. They are UH-60 Blackhawks, matte black, bristling with antennas and sensors, the kind that don't fly over major cities unless something has gone catastrophically wrong. One of the helicopters peels off, circling the hospital like a shark. The other descends with terrifying speed and precision. It doesn't head for the rooftop helipad. It lands directly on the multi-lane highway in front of the hospital, its landing gear screeching on the wet asphalt. Cars swerve and crash. Horns blare in a cacophony of panic. The side doors of the Blackhawk slide open before it is even fully settled. Ropes drop, and figures clad in black tactical gear slide down with practiced ease. They are not police. They are not SWAT. They move with the predatory grace of elite soldiers. Special forces. They form a perimeter, their rifles held in a low, ready position, securing the impromptu landing zone. Out of the helicopter steps a man who is clearly in command. He is older, with short, cropped gray hair and a face carved from granite. He wears a standard Army combat uniform, but the two silver stars on his collar command more authority than any weapon. He is a major general. He strides toward the hospital's main entrance, flanked by 4 of his operators. They move through the chaos with an unnerving calm, ignoring the panicked civilians and the blaring car alarms. They are a bubble of lethal purpose in a world that has just been turned upside down. The hospital's automatic doors slide open, and the soldiers storm into the ER. The scene inside is one of utter pandemonium. Nurses are screaming. Patients are trying to hide under their beds. Dr. Thorne, drawn by the commotion, stands in the middle of the floor, his face a mixture of confusion and outrage. The general stops in the center of the room. His operators fan out, securing the area with quiet, professional efficiency. The general's voice isn't loud, but it cuts through the noise like a scalpel. Who is in charge here? Thorne, his ego always ready to assert itself, puffs out his chest. I am Dr. Harrison Thorne, Chief of Surgery for this hospital. What is the meaning of this intrusion? This is a civilian facility. The general gives Thorne a look of such profound dismissal that it's a wonder the doctor doesn't evaporate on the spot. He doesn't even bother to respond to the question. We are looking for a member of your staff, the general says, his eyes scanning the terrified faces of the nurses. We were told she works here. She is an asset. Her call sign is Angel. A confused silence falls over the ER staff. Angel? They look at each other, shaking their heads. No one has ever heard of a nurse with that name. Thorne scoffs. We have no one by that name. You're mistaken. Now I demand that you and your men leave immediately. Chloe, the young nurse who had watched Anya's humiliation earlier, takes a hesitant step forward. Her voice is a timid squeak. Sir? General? Sir? The general's gaze softens slightly as he looks at her. Yes? There's a nurse, Chloe stammers. Anya Petrova. Some of the soldiers she treated overseas. I heard a story once. They used to call her that. But she can't be who you're looking for. Dr. Thorne just fired her. The general's face hardens. His eyes lock onto Thorne's. You fired her? She was incompetent, a danger to patients, Thorne sputters, suddenly on the defensive. The general ignores him completely. He turns to one of his operators. Find her. Now. The soldier nods and speaks into his radio. A moment later, another operator who had remained outside comes jogging in. He leans in and whispers to the general. The general nods slowly, his jaw tight. He walks back out the main entrance, leaving a wake of confusion in a very nervous Dr. Thorne. Outside, Anya is still standing by the side of the road, soaked and shivering, watching the military presence with a sense of dawning dread. She had hoped this part of her life was over. A soldier approaches her, moving respectfully. Ma'am, are you Anya Petrova? He asks, his voice surprisingly gentle. Anya just nods, unable to speak. We need you to come with us, ma'am, the soldier says. General Wallace would like to speak with you. The general himself is now walking toward her. He stops a few feet away, his expression a mixture of relief and grave concern. Angel, he says, the name feeling strange and foreign on this rain-slicked city street. It's good to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances. Anya finally finds her voice. General Wallace, what's going on? How did you find me? The man you have in there, Wallace says, gesturing toward the hospital, is Captain Alex Ryder. He's one of ours. He was carrying an emergency transponder. When his vitals crashed, it sent out a distress signal, a signal keyed to your biometrics. He designated you as his primary medical proxy. Anya's blood runs cold. Alex Ryder. She knew him. Not well, but she knew him. A ranger, tough as nails. She had patched him up once after a training accident. She had never expected to see him again, let alone like this. He's been exposed to a T7 variant, Anya says flatly. I stabilized him, but the doctor in charge, he's going to kill him. We know, Wallace says, his voice grim. We heard the comms chatter from your body cam. He taps his own chest. Standard procedure for assets operating near Kim threats. Everything is recorded. We heard the whole thing. The diagnosis. The defiance. We heard Dr. Thorne fire you. He pauses. You did good, Anya. You did exactly what you were trained to do. He turns. Now, let's go and make sure Captain Ryder gets the care he needs. He gestures for her to walk with him. Two of his operators fall into step behind them, a silent, formidable honor guard. They walk back into the emergency room. The entire ER staff is gathered, along with a growing crowd of 50 or 60 soldiers who have disembarked from the second helicopter and now line the walls of the cavernous room. They stand silent and imposing, a wall of disciplined force. It feels like an occupying army. Dr. Thorne sees Anya walk in, flanked by the general, and his face pales. What is this? I told you, she is fired. She is not allowed in this building. General Wallace stops directly in front of him. He is several inches shorter than the surgeon, but he radiates an authority that makes Thorne seem small and insignificant. "The man you so arrogantly dismissed as a junkie," the general says, his voice echoing in the sudden silence, "is Captain Alex Ryder of the 75th Ranger Regiment, a decorated hero who has saved more lives than you have billed for. And this woman," he says, gesturing to Anya, "is former Air Force pararescueman Anya Petrova, recipient of the Air Force Cross for extreme heroism in combat. She has more experience with battlefield trauma and exotic chemical agents than every doctor in this entire hospital combined. She is not just a nurse. She is the foremost expert on the very poison that is killing Captain Ryder." A wave of shock and awe washes over the room. The nurses and doctors stare at Anya as if seeing her for the first time. The mousy, incompetent woman they knew has been replaced by a war hero. Chloe's eyes are wide with disbelief and admiration. Thorne is speechless, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. His entire world is crumbling around him, but his titanic ego makes one last, desperate stand. "I don't care who she is," he finally shouts, his voice cracking with desperation and fury. "She is a subordinate. She defied a direct order. In my ER, you have no authority here." He turns on Anya, his face twisted in a mask of pure hatred. You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you can waltz back in here with your toy soldiers and undermine me?" He takes a menacing step toward her, his fists clenched. "You are nothing. A nobody." He is completely unhinged, screaming in the face of the woman who has so thoroughly dismantled his authority. The soldiers along the wall tense, their hands tightening on their weapons. General Wallace watches with a face like thunder. "I'll show you what happens to insubordinate little—" Thorne yells, his self-control shattering completely. He lunges. He swings his right hand, not an open-handed slap, but a full-blown punch, aimed directly at Anya's face. Time seems to slow down. The movement is so shocking, so beyond the pale, that no one reacts fast enough to stop it. The sound of the impact is a sickening crack that echoes through the silent room. Anya's head snaps to the side from the force of the blow. A thin trickle of blood appears at the corner of her lip. She stumbles but doesn't fall, her expression one of cold, detached shock. For a heartbeat, there is absolute silence. The soldiers raise their rifles. General Wallace takes a step forward, his face a mask of murderous rage. But they are too slow. A blur of motion erupts from the gurney in Trauma 3. Captain Alex Ryder, the man who was supposed to be comatose, dying, moves with the explosive speed of a viper. He had been feigning a deeper level of unconsciousness, his training keeping him aware of his surroundings even through the fog of the poison. In one fluid movement, he is off the gurney. His left hand shoots out and clamps around Thorne's wrist, arresting the surgeon's follow-through with bone-jarring force. Thorne yelps in pain and surprise. Ryder's other hand comes up. It is not a fist. It is an open palm, fingers rigid. He doesn't waste energy on a wide swing. It is a short, brutally efficient strike, a palm heel to the point of Thorne's jaw. The sound is not loud. It is a dense, wet thwack, like a heavy book being dropped on concrete. Dr. Harrison Thorne's eyes roll back into his head. His body goes completely limp. He collapses to the floor in a boneless heap, out cold before he even hits the linoleum. Silence. Utter, profound silence. Every single person in the room is frozen, staring at the unconscious form of the once mighty surgeon, and then at the ranger standing over him. Captain Ryder sways on his feet, the sudden exertion taking its toll. He turns his head slowly, his gaze finding Anya's. His voice is a low, gravelly rasp, but it carries across the room. "Nobody," he breathes, his eyes burning with a protective fire. "Nobody touches my angel." Then his legs give out, and he pitches forward. Anya, snapping out of her shock, lunges and catches him before he hits the ground, gently lowering him back onto the gurney. The hero has saved his savior, and now it is her turn once more. She looks up at the stunned faces around her, her hand gently resting on Ryder's chest. The quiet, timid nurse is well and truly gone. In her place is a commander. "Get me a secure line to USAMRIID, she says, her voice ringing with an authority no one dares to question. "Tell them it's a T7 variant organophosphate. I need the pralidoxime delta compound and a full chem response kit. Now. General Wallace nods to his comms specialist, who immediately gets to work. Two of the operators move forward and place Thorn in flex cuffs, dragging his unconscious body unceremoniously to the side. Anya is now the center of this universe. Her focus is absolute. I need real-time telemetry, she says to Chloe, who is staring at her with wide, worshipful eyes. Heart rate, SpO2, core temperature, and continuous ECG. I want you to call the lab and tell them to prep for a red cell cholinesterase assay. But do not, under any circumstances, handle the blood sample yourselves. It's a biohazard. Chloe just nods, speechless, and scrambles to do as she's told. General Wallace steps up beside Anya. What else do you need? The antidote is just the start, Anya says, her fingers checking Ryder's pulse. The T7 has secondary effects we don't fully understand. It's a neurotoxin, but it also has hemolytic properties. It attacks the blood cells. He's going to need massive transfusions, possibly even full blood exchange. This hospital isn't equipped for that, not with a contaminated patient. As she speaks, Wallace's intelligence officer approaches, a tablet in his hand. Sir, we have a problem, he says in a low voice. We've been monitoring local comms. Dr. Thorne wasn't just arrogant, he was on a payroll. The same people Ryder was investigating. Mercenaries working for a rogue state. Anya looks up, her eyes narrowing. He wasn't just trying to get rid of a junkie, he was trying to eliminate a target. His instructions were to ensure Captain Ryder died on the table, the officer confirms. And there's more. Ryder was carrying a sample of the agent in a sealed vial. It's missing. It wasn't on him when the paramedics arrived. Anya and Wallace exchange a look of dawning horror. The vial is somewhere in the hospital. A tiny, weaponized container of one of the deadliest substances on Earth. Lock this place down, Wallace orders. Nobody in or out. I want every room, every closet, every trash can searched. Full Level 4 biohazard protocol. Suddenly, a code blue alarm blares over the hospital's PA system. Code blue, pediatrics. Code blue, pediatrics. But it's a distraction. Anya knows it in her gut. Her eyes dart around the chaotic ER. She sees it in the corner of her eye. A janitor, pushing a cleaning cart, moving with a little too much purpose toward the hallway that leads to the trauma bays. He doesn't look like the other janitors. His boots are wrong. They are military-style tactical boots, not worn-out sneakers. And the way he moves, it's the quiet, predatory glide of a hunter. He's not a janitor. He's an assassin. And he's not going to pediatrics. He's coming for Ryder. General, watch Ryder! Anya shouts. Before anyone can react, she sprints from the trauma bay, intercepting the janitor just as he reaches for the handle of his mop. But he's not grabbing the mop. He's pulling a silenced pistol from a hidden clip. He's fast. But Anya is faster. She doesn't scream or shout. She closes the distance in 2 steps. Her left hand shoots out and grabs his wrist, twisting it inward with brutal force, pointing the barrel of the gun toward the ceiling. Her other hand, balled into a fist, drives hard into his solar plexus. The air rushes out of his lungs in a surprised gasp. His finger tightens on the trigger, and a single, muffled pht sends a bullet harmlessly into the ceiling tiles. The assassin is a professional. He recovers instantly, trying to bring his weapon back to bear. He shoves her back, creating space. But Anya doesn't fight like a civilian. She flows into him, a whirlwind of controlled violence. She ducks under his swinging arm, pivots, and drives her elbow into the side of his knee. There is a wet, popping sound, and his leg buckles. He cries out in pain. As he stumbles, she brings her hands up, clasping them together, and delivers a devastating 2-handed strike to the base of his skull. He drops like a stone, unconscious. The entire fight took less than 5 seconds. The ER staff, who had been reeling from Thorne's knockout, now stare in complete, stupefied silence. The mousy nurse they had mocked for months just took down a trained assassin with her bare hands. Soldiers swarm the downed man, disarming and cuffing him. Anya stands over him, breathing heavily, her knuckles scraped and raw. She looks up and meets Chloe's gaze. The young nurse looks like she's seen a ghost. General Wallace walks over, his own pistol now drawn. This hospital is compromised, he says, his voice grim. Thorne had accomplices. We can't stay here. I agree, Anya says. Ryder's not stable enough to move far, but we can't treat him here. We're sitting ducks. I have a contingency, Wallace says. There's a decommissioned continuity of government bunker about 30 miles north of here. It's got a fully equipped medical bay. It's off-grid and defensible. We can take him there. Let's move, Anya says without hesitation. Get the Pralidoxum Delta on the bird. We'll administer it in the air. Within minutes, the plan is in motion. A small, elite team of operators forms a tight cordon around Ryder's gurney. Anya walks beside him, manually bagging him, her eyes constantly scanning the area for threats. They move out of the ER and toward the waiting Blackhawk. As they pass the main desk, they see Dr. Thorne, now conscious and sitting in a chair, his wrists cuffed, a massive purple bruise swelling on his jaw. He is being questioned by two men in dark suits who are clearly federal agents. He sees Anya, and his eyes fill with a pathetic, pleading terror. "Petrova! Tell them!" he begs. "Tell them it was a mistake! I was under pressure! They made me do it!" Anya doesn't even break her stride. She looks through him as if he were a pane of glass, her expression cold and unforgiving. She has no words for him, only contempt. They load Ryder onto the Blackhawk. The rotors spin up, creating a deafening whirlwind of wind and rain. Anya settles in beside her patient, the chaos of the hospital shrinking below them as they lift off into the night sky. The first part of the battle is over, but she knows the war for Captain Ryder's life, and her own, has just begun. The mercenaries who wanted him dead are not going to give up so easily. The flight to the bunker is a tense, focused flurry of activity. The promised antidote arrives on a second helicopter that meets them in midair, a soldier passing a heavy, refrigerated case across in a daring maneuver. Inside, nestled in cold foam, are the vials of Pralidoxime Delta. Anya works under the dim red light of the cabin, her hands steady despite the helicopter's bucking. She administers the first dose, a flood of life-saving medicine into the IV line. Now, it's a waiting game. The bunker is a relic of the Cold War, a concrete beast buried in the heart of a dense national forest. From the air, it's invisible. The entrance is disguised as a simple ranger station. Inside, it is a maze of sterile corridors and reinforced steel doors. It is a ghost tomb, silent and safe. They get Ryder settled in the medical bay, a room that looks like it was flash frozen in 1985, but contains surprisingly modern equipment. Anya works tirelessly, hooking him up to monitors, drawing blood, and managing the complex cocktail of drugs needed to keep him alive. General Wallace sets up a command post in the adjacent room, his team coordinating a nationwide manhunt for the rest of the mercenary team and the missing vial. For 2 days, Anya does not sleep. She subsists on coffee and sheer force of will, watching Ryder's vitals like a hawk. The Pralidoxime Delta is working, but slowly. The poison is tenacious. Ryder drifts in and out of consciousness, occasionally mumbling deliriously. In his lucid moments, his eyes find hers, a silent thank you passing between them. On the third day, there is a breakthrough. Ryder's temperature stabilizes. His heart rate returns to a steady rhythm. He opens his eyes, and for the first time, they are clear. "Hey, Angel," he whispers, his voice hoarse. Anya feels a wave of relief so powerful it almost buckles her knees. A small, tired smile touches her lips. "Hey, Captain. Welcome back." "Heard I missed some excitement," he says, a faint grin on his face. "You could say that," Anya replies. "You have excellent timing with a palm heel strike. I'll give you that." "Training," he says simply. "They teach you to act, even when you're compromised." He hit you." The grin fades, replaced by a flicker of anger. "He did," Anya confirms, "and you handled it." Their moment is interrupted by the urgent buzz of an intercom. It's General Wallace. "Anya, we have a problem. They found us." Anya's blood runs cold. "How?" "We don't know, but my perimeter teams just spotted a dozen hostiles approaching from the north, heavily armed. They're cutting through the forest. They'll be on us in 20 minutes. The illusion of safety shatters. The tomb is about to become a battlefield. Wallace's voice is grim. "I've got 8 operators here, plus you and me. Ryder is in no condition to fight. We're outnumbered and outgunned. I've called for reinforcements, but they're an hour out, best case." Anya's mind snaps back into combat mode. The years of training, the instincts she tried to suppress, all come rushing back. "What's the defensive layout?" The next hour is a blur of desperate preparation. The soldiers set up kill zones in the narrow corridors. They place charges on the main blast door. Anya, her medical work done for the moment, becomes a tactical asset. She points out blind spots, suggests fallback positions, and ensures every soldier has extra medical supplies. She moves with a confidence that inspires the hardened operators around her. The attack comes suddenly and with brutal force. An explosion rocks the main entrance, the reinforced steel door groaning under the impact. Gunfire erupts, a deafening cacophony of automatic weapons fire echoing through the concrete halls. Anya is in the medical bay with Ryder and one young soldier assigned to guard them. She has a pistol, taken from the bunker's armory, clutched in her hand. She can hear the battle raging just down the hall, the shouts of the soldiers, the crack of their rifles. Ryder struggles to sit up. "Give me a weapon," he rasps. "You can barely stand," Anya says, pushing him gently back down. "Your job is to stay alive. My job is to keep you that way." An explosion, much closer this time, shakes the room. Dust rains down from the ceiling. The lights flicker and die, replaced by the eerie red glow of the emergency backup power. The gunfire outside their door stops. It's a terrifying silence. "They're through," the young soldier whispers, his eyes wide with fear. Then they hear it. The soft scrape of boots on concrete, getting closer. The door to the medical bay bursts open. Two mercenaries in black tactical gear storm in, their rifles sweeping the room. The young soldier raises his rifle, but he's too slow. A burst of fire tears across his chest, and he collapses without a sound. The two mercenaries turn their weapons on Ryder's bed. Anya moves. She doesn't think. She reacts. She shoves Ryder's gurney hard, sending it rolling out of the line of fire. At the same time, she drops to one knee and raises her pistol. Crack! The first mercenary grunts and stumbles back, a red flower blooming on his chest. He was focused on the bed, not the nurse in the corner. Crack! Crack! She fires twice more. The second mercenary, surprised, returns fire. Bullets tear through the air where she was a second ago, shattering medical equipment. But Anya is already moving, diving behind a heavy steel cabinet. She is pinned down. The remaining mercenary is advancing, laying down suppressing fire. She is out of her depth. A pistol against a military-grade rifle. Suddenly, a figure rises from the gurney she had pushed against the far wall. It's Ryder. He is holding a heavy steel oxygen tank like a club. He is weak, unsteady, but his eyes are filled with a cold, lethal fury. The mercenary turns, surprised by the new threat. It's the only opening Anya needs. She leans out from behind the cabinet and fires. Crack! The bullet hits the mercenary in the neck. He gurgles, drops his rifle, and crumples to the floor. Silence descends once more. The room is a wreck of shattered glass and smoking equipment. Anya and Ryder look at each other, both breathing heavily. Just then, General Wallace and two of his operators appear in the doorway, their faces grimed with dust and smoke. "It's over," Wallace says. "We got them. Reinforcements just arrived." They have survived. The aftermath is a somber affair. They lost 3 soldiers, including the young man in the medical bay, but they held the line, and Ryder is alive. Back in the command center, Wallace gets a final piece of intelligence. The mercenary leader was in direct contact with someone at a press conference. It's happening right now. The board of St. Jude's is trying to control the narrative. And guess who their star witness is? Anya knows the answer before he says it. Thorne. He's out on bail, Wallace confirms. His lawyers are claiming he's a victim, coerced by the terrorists. He's blaming the entire incident on a rogue, mentally unstable nurse. Anya feels a flash of white-hot anger. After everything, after all the lives lost, that man is still trying to save his own skin by destroying hers. "Then let's go set the record straight," Ryder says from his wheelchair, a blanket draped over his shoulders. He looks weak, but his voice is iron. Wallace grins. "I was hoping you'd say that." An hour later, 2 Blackhawks descend not on a highway, but on the plaza in front of a downtown hotel where the press conference is being held. The doors open, and a group of figures emerge, striding into the hotel lobby and pushing through the stunned reporters into the packed ballroom. At the podium is Dr. Harrison Thorne. He looks polished, sympathetic. A bruise is artfully covered with makeup on his jaw. He is in the middle of a self-pitying monologue. A deeply troubled individual, Thorne is saying, his voice dripping with false concern. This nurse, Anya Petrova, had a history of insubordination. We now believe she was working with the terrorists, and when I discovered her plot, she and her military accomplices kidnapped me, and... He stops. His eyes have landed on the group that just entered the room. He sees General Wallace. He sees a still weak but very much alive Captain Ryder in a wheelchair. And he sees Anya. She is not wearing scrubs. She is wearing a borrowed army combat uniform, her hair pulled back, the scar above her eye proudly on display. She looks every inch the warrior she is. Thorne's face turns the color of ash. General Wallace strides to the podium, taking the microphone from the stunned hospital administrator. "My apologies for the interruption," he says to the bewildered press corps, "but I feel it's my duty to correct the record. Dr. Thorne here is a liar," Wallace states, his voice booming through the ballroom. "He wasn't coerced by terrorists. He was their paid accomplice. And we have the proof." He signals to an aide, who connects a laptop to the ballroom sound system. A recording begins to play. It's Thorne's voice, tinny and clear, captured by an intelligence intercept. "The target is in my ER," Thorne's voice says. "He's stable. Don't worry. I'll make sure he has a fatal complication within the hour. Just make sure the money is in my account." A collective gasp fills the room. Thorne looks around wildly, like a cornered rat. He sees the federal agents who had questioned him before, now moving to block the exits. That's a fake! It's doctored!" he screams, his composure shattering. "She's the criminal! Her! The crazy nurse!" He points a trembling finger at Anya. Anya takes a step forward. She doesn't speak to the press. She speaks directly to Thorne, her voice quiet, but carrying an immense weight. "You had a choice, Doctor. You could have been a healer. But you chose greed. You chose ego. And now you have nothing." Thorne lets out a pathetic, animalistic cry and tries to bolt from the stage. He is immediately tackled by the federal agents, who cuff him and begin to drag him away, screaming about his innocence, his career, his reputation. It's a pathetic, undignified end to a man who once commanded so much respect. The cameras all turn to Anya. A reporter shouts a question. "Miss Petrova, who are you?" Before Anya can answer, General Wallace steps back to the microphone. He tells them everything. He tells them about pararescue jumper Anya Petrova. He tells them about the Air Force Cross she earned for shielding a wounded ranger from grenade shrapnel with her own body, the act that gave her the scar she tried so hard to hide. He tells them how, suffering from the trauma of a mission gone wrong, she sought a quiet life, hiding her skills and her heroism from a world she no longer felt a part of. "She is not a rogue nurse," Wallace concludes, his voice thick with emotion. "She is a national hero, and she deserves our utmost respect and gratitude." A spontaneous applause starts in the room, first from the soldiers, then from the reporters, then from everyone. It swells into a thunderous ovation. Anya stands there, stunned, as the warmth of their gratitude washes over her, a feeling she hasn't allowed herself to experience in years. Chloe, the young nurse, is there in the crowd, tears streaming down her face as she applauds the woman she always knew was special. In the aftermath, everything changes. Anya's nursing license is not only reinstated, but is accompanied by a formal apology from the state board. The sycophantic doctors and nurses who enabled Thorne at St. Jude's are quietly fired or resign in disgrace. The hospital's administration is cleaned out. A few days later, Anya is standing on the tarmac of a military airfield. General Wallace stands with her. "The world knows who you are now, Anya," he says. "You can't go back to being a quiet nurse in a city hospital." "I know," she says softly. It doesn't scare her anymore. "Which is why I have a proposition for you," Wallace continues. "We're putting together a new unit, a small, elite, rapid deployment team. A surgical unit that attaches directly to Tier 1 assets in the field. It needs a commander, someone with both medical and tactical expertise, someone who knows what it's like to operate under fire. We need the Angel." He offers her a folder. Inside are commissioning papers for the rank of Major. Anya looks at the papers, then out at the C-130 transport plane waiting on the runway. For the first time in a long time, she feels a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. A voice calls her name. "Ready to go, Major?" She turns. Captain Alex Ryder is walking toward her. He's out of the wheelchair, leaning on a single crutch, but he's wearing a flight suit. A broad, genuine smile is on his face. Anya looks at him, then at the waiting plane, then back at the life she is leaving behind. She no longer feels the need to hide her scar. It is not a mark of shame. It is a badge of honor. A real smile, bright and full of hope, finally reaches her eyes. "Always, Captain," she says. Together, they turn and walk up the cargo ramp of the C-130, not as a patient and a nurse, but as comrades, warriors. They walk away from the shadows of the past and into the promise of a new dawn, ready for whatever comes next. We really hope you enjoyed this educational piece of content and hope that you could understand the moral lessons behind it. The story of Anya Petrova is a powerful reminder that true strength and character are not defined by job titles or the opinions of arrogant people. It teaches us that courage is about doing the right thing, even when it's hard and you're standing alone. Anya's journey shows that you should never judge a book by its cover, because the quietest people often have the strongest will and the most heroic hearts. In the end, doing the right thing always pays off, and true heroes are eventually recognized for their integrity and bravery. What would you have done if you were in Anya's shoes? Would you have defied Dr. Thorne to save the patient? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. Have a nice rest of your day.